Hi, I'm Minnie. Hi, I'm Minnie from Tinny Design. Good way to start out. Hi, I'm Tinny from Minnie Design. Yeah, that's better. And today we're going to bid off item 23. That's an Elite stove with a miso stove inside, the original prototype with the lines on it, and the lid. Now, I got a boatload of bids on this. This was a really popular one, and everybody bid on it. Wow. But in the end, only one person can win. And the person who won this, I don't have the address, I just have a name, but it's unique enough, so I don't think anybody else is going to have that name. It's kind of nice when you do bid, if you give me the address, so then I can give the name and like give the state and the town, and then if there's two people with the same name, it's not a problem. Not that I run into the same name thing that often, but it does happen. I've had exact bids right down to the penny, same name, lots of things like that. When you get into big numbers like that, you run into that. But enough rambling on. Item 23, the winning bidder is David Reamer, R-E-I-M-E-R, David Reamer. So congratulations, David, and I will send you the link as soon as I finish with this video, so you can pay me through via PayPal, and I'll get that right out to you. Thanks a lot for your bid, and thanks for everybody else's bid. It's been interesting. Okay, now, before I forget, we're going to bid off item 24. It comes right after 23 every time. This is just a standard, well, I don't want to say standard. This is just an Elite stove. I'm not going to name it anything, but this is the next generation of Elites. I did two things of this that I've never done before, and I think it's a better stove. There's just, I got to keep quiet about it, but there's just so many things about this that I'm not telling anybody about that I'm doing, that I just, I'm watching other people and I feel sorry, because you're going to realize I've been building this off and on for a few years. I built this first time quite a few years ago, and then I dropped it because I just didn't like the design. It was too fudgy, too fudgy to build. And then after a few years, when I got older and wiser and learned a lot more techniques, I came back and started building it again. Much better stove, much better way of building. And it's all in the technique. But there's a lot more to this than meets the eye. I don't think people understand that. Just for an example, this inner wall, which is, you got to have a template to make it, because it's a reducer, I don't know what you want to call it, but it's bigger on top than on the bottom. So the wall can't be square. It's got to be a half moon type deal. That basically is the strength of the stove. That's when you put weight on top of it, that's what holds it in place. And now on my stove, that's what holds it up. And then the crimp on the edge, which is, I resize it to full length and slide the bottom in, and then I crimp it. And that crimp holds it right together so that it can't go this way. And you say, well, it's never going to go that way. It's always going to have weight on it. Well, that would be great if it was true, but it's not. When this aluminum heats up, it expands big time. So if the stove isn't crimped and it heats up, when it gets hot, it'll open up. Okay, no big deal. Cool, you still get everything where it's supposed to be. But then when it cools down and the inside shrinks, the two outer halves don't go back together again. There's nothing to pull them back together. They're up there, now the inside shrunk, now there's a gap on the inside. Okay. Well, that's not a problem the first few times, but after you use this a few times and put a pot on it, it'll drop back down whatever it shrunk and go back to bearing on the inside. And even that's not a problem, you'd think. But when that goes up and then shrinks and is loose, it opens up a little bit, and it's in a radius, and when it goes back down, it pulls it back in, and the whole thing is moving. Every time you heat it up and cool it off, it's moving, and the stove will get loose and rattly. These don't, because I hot roll crimp them. And once they're hot roll crimped, they're not going anywhere. When that inner wall heats, it'll flex, but it won't push things apart. Now, some people have had trouble with the top rim warping, and there's a reason for that. I'll tell you the reason, but I'm not going to tell you how to cure it, because I invented it. Obviously, I sold 100 of these, so it must work. I have had the rim roll on. One person contacted me, and I told him how to fix it. But anyway, this top rim on this particular stove, and only on this type of stove, the regular ones are made out of two bottoms. It's made for a bottom and a top. This top rim is made out of aluminum, and the sheet is up, and then it's, see if I can get it, it's bent over and over again, and then tucked under and crimped in. So this is 3 layers, and it's been bent a number of times in places that aluminum just doesn't want to go, but it didn't have any choice. So, needless to say, there's a lot of stress on this. It would like to go back to its original shape. It has some memory, and it's thick. So, when you light this stove, if you don't do what I do, you just light it in its native form, if the rim heats up everywhere at the same time, it'll pretty much stay in shape. But the problem is, when the flames are coming up, they don't all come up exactly hunky-dory. Some of them will hit the rim and some of them won't. Well, wherever it hits the rim, the aluminum will expand. So if you've got this rim going around and you've got a really hot spot right here, and it's not hot over here and it's not over here, it'll only expand where it's hot. Well, when that little short area expands and it's pushing against the 2 cool areas, it's got to go somewhere. It's going to expand. It's going to get bigger. Well, when it gets bigger, it doesn't have anywhere to go, so it starts to unfold. It comes out and curls up. And you've got a stove that's not good for anything anymore. There is a fairly easy way around that took me a couple of years to stumble onto it. This one, I did it to this one today, and then I fired it. You can see it's been burned. Put a half an ounce alcohol and burned it, and I didn't have to do anything. That's what it looked like when I got all done. The rim did not move at all. I have perfected the technique for that. And that's the difference between this stove and the ones I used to make. With the hot roll crimp and the rim tricked out, and over years this inner half moon inner wall, I've made dozens of templates and changed them and recut them and changed them, and I cut it yet one more time the other day, because it's just, there's no rules to this thing. Sometimes the cans have changed over the years, and so when they did, the template had to change. Also in the bottom is a radius, and you've got a fairly wide radius with a thin piece of sheet metal coming down, and the sheet metal, as it heats and cools, tends to creep back and forth on that radius and work itself into a frenzy and loosen up. So I've built a press forming tool, and I reform the bottom radius to make it narrower to hug the inner wall. That's just one of the many things that this is a very tight, rugged stove. When these are hot roll crimped together, they're compressed to 25 pounds. And if they don't make the 25 pounds, they just explode. So while they're being hot roll crimped, they're under 25 pounds of pressure. So I'm pretty sure they'll take 25 pounds of load right on the top, day in and day out. And they won't expand, contract, and get loose and get rattly. And the rim will not warp on them. So that's the difference between the cheap ones and the expensive ones, I guess. It's just like that with everything. You get what you pay for. If you think I'm getting a lot of money for these, well, I don't sell them anymore, but when I did sell them, it was that much in them. There's a lot of work in them. I don't bang one of these out in 3 minutes. These are, I can sometimes spend 20 minutes getting one of these the way I want it. So they're not something you just throw together in mass, produce. When you get all done, sometimes everything's correct, but they just don't look right. I just throw them in the trash. So good stove, real good stove. And I'm going to try to do one every day and bid it off. I'm not going to sell them in the store because it doesn't matter how many I put in there. When I get up the next day, they're all sold out. And I could just spend all my time fiddling with these. And I'm not that big on working with soda cans. I don't want to be known for my feats with soda cans. No glory. So this is item 24. And it's up for bid. Send your bids to Tinny at minibulldesign.com, and I'll announce the high bidder tomorrow, and we'll get that right out to you. I'm Tinny from Mini Bull Design. Get out and hike, take a friend, enjoy the great outdoors, and more important than anything, try to set a little time aside today to have some fun. When you go out hiking, try to leave no trace, and try to have a really great day. Bye-bye.